And we are back. Mozart Minute, episode
Dose.
Yeah.
Dose.
on Wednesday. We
That's
got
two.
Labor Day. It is 2. Labor Day weekend is coming up. We're here in the cabin, the lodge. What are we going to call this up here anyway?
The loft.
I can never not record without thinking of the Chappelle episode when there's, he's being P. Diddy. And, we're in the studio again. We're in the studio again. So welcome back. We're in the studio once again. Joining me, I've got my man, JP. Good
What's
to
up?
see you.
It's good to see you.
And behind the boards, D-Money.
The voice, no visual.
That's right. The man with a face for radio. That's
Mama loves me.
cold.
Yeah.
That's cold. Nah, you're a handsome guy, Dev.
I try.
You're welcome. Pause. So, hopping right into it.
Yes.
This weekend we have Labor Day, kind of the unofficial big end of the summer.
The last hurrah.
Why is that?
It's the last time everybody has off, I think, is what it is. It's like the last day that you can do something on the weekend and not have to regret it on Monday going into work.
I'm not about that. I'm endless summer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
But
Devil-
I do like hoodies. I enjoy hoodies.
Sweater weather.
Hey, the kids nowadays, they wear the hoodies right meow. 90-degree weather. They're out there just stroking out in these hoodies.
Bro, I don't understand that.
I'm too chubby for that.
I'll go to these softball games and I will see kids in hoodies, jeans, boots, and a hat just running, or like literally running.
I wonder if that same kid's going to show up on a 20-degree day in shorts.
Yeah, 100%.
The backwards man.
100%.
Doesn't conform to society's rules.
I'm not, a rebel. I'm a rebel.
Yeah.
I'm going to be out here just
I
sweating.
want to be
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
Well, men, what are your plans for the Labor Day weekend?
I honestly think I'm gonna end up having to pack.
Is that
I
right?
think so.
Very good. How about you, Deb?
I'm doing a wedding on Sunday. Getting a little DJ action, and it's a destination wedding, so
Oh.
they've got me a hotel room for Sunday night.
My man is working.
Oh, we don't take days off.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a couple days off.
Endless summer.
Surprise.
No baseball.
No baseball. We had baseball last weekend, got baseball next weekend, and the next weekend, and the next weekend. But this weekend, I'm going to take a guess.
You're not working.
You got to do the suspenseful music.
Oh, hold up. We got this. Give me 1 second.
Right.
We got this one. Okay. Justin, are you ready for this?
I
Are you?
yeah.
Are you ready? Are you ready? What's your guess?
I'm gonna say somewhere off D Highway.
Well, let's
In
not get
Woodgrass.
specific in the location, but in the general vicinity of the river. This is getting boring now. People are like, all right, what are they going to get into it? Now, great segue into what I wanted to talk about today. Now, this might be a bit of a prickly subject, okay?
I'm okay with that.
All right, here we go. We're not getting political, I promise. We already had a dose of that this morning. Floating and
Yes.
boating. Floating and boating. Welcome to Missouri's waterways. We welcome you with open arms. But sometimes when I get online and I get to reading through some of these groups or forums or, just general conversations, there seems to be, a pretty large beef with floaters and boaters. And I just kind of wanted to take an opportunity today to chat about that a little bit. Now, whichever side you find yourself on, I need to back up and give some context a little about me, about us. Born and raised on Black River. I still live on Black River. One of my favorite activities is to float. Matter of fact, earlier this summer on its annual journey, we got my dad's 1963 19-foot square stern Grumman canoe with a 1957 7.5 horse Johnson outboard, just for kicks, just for sentimental sake. We like to kayak. Sometimes I'll even get in a tube and just float.
Just chill.
Yeah, man. Watch the world go by. But sometimes I like to get in a boat with a motor and go upstream and haul family and friends and people that, can't necessarily or won't necessarily sit in a canoe all day long or half the day. The back can't take it, my legs can't take it, whatever the case may be. And I don't even know where to begin here. Let's start with boats.
Okay.
All right. So when you're on these waterways, a lot of these aluminum John boats, I mean, they're not anything over the top fancy. Matter of fact, the more weight you add to them, the less capable that they really are. But you're talking about the average river boat, all right, is going to be like a 17 or 18 foot, barely 5 foot wide aluminum John boat. Not exactly a great feat of engineering. Not a lot of technology in this rascal, all right? The design has virtually unchanged since inception.
It's those sides.
Oh, man, you got to have that rake. Look like a cobra coming down the river. So on the back of that boat is going to be an outboard motor, generally speaking. Now, all outboards are manufactured with a prop. They come with a prop. You've all seen them on outdrives, inboards, outboards. On these John boats, they have an outboard jet unit. And that outboard jet, instead of going down below the bottom of the boat and with that propeller and propulsion, that boat going forward, that prop's going to be pushing the water. These jets are mounted at or just above the bottom of the boat. And it has an impeller right above some grates, and it actually sucks the water up into that pump, runs it around a flute, and shoots it out the back. Jet pump. These things are loud. They are incredibly inefficient. And that's why a rule of thumb, a 60 horse motor becomes a 40 horse motor. They say they lose roughly 30% of their efficiency when you put this jet pump on it. Now, if you're sitting there in an inner tube, minding your own business, relaxing, floating down the river with your eyes about a foot off the water, and all of a sudden you hear one of these outboard jets screaming up the river. I mean, it sounds like things are about to break. It sounds like this thing's about to come apart. They sound horrible. And you look up and you can't see the eyes of the person operating it. And you might think, oh my God, well, one of these 60-40s is probably going about 24 mile an hour.
Which water speed? That's fast. I mean, nonetheless.
Sure. But they have to be under power to have control. All right. Now, a lot of the time you're running through water that, might not even get your shoelaces wet if you walk across the river. I mean, these things can run in inches, a matter of inches of water. But to do that, they have to be up on plane. They have to be going at full propulsion up on top of the water, skipping through there. And this can be really scary. Now, boaters, you're up first since I started with boats. It's kind of crazy because there's nothing that really prevents you from just going out and buying a boat, having never operated one, and dropping it in the water and going for it. And you got folks that are like, oh, yeah, I grew up on Mississippi River. This creek ain't nothing, right? Or, grew up blah, 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 blah. And then they get out there and they just throw these things down, these boats, and throw the throttle down to the wood and take off with not a lot of, I guess, consideration for the other people that are out there on the water.
Yeah.
So a couple things I like to remind new and seasoned boaters alike. For one, just slow down, man. You're in the most magical place in the world, in my opinion, especially in the Ozarks. Take your time. Yeah. What's the hurry? You can stop the boat and allow people to float through a tough spot. There's nothing wrong with that. You can wave at them and smile, and they will appreciate you acknowledging their presence. I see this quite a bit. Now, granted, on the other side of it, they're taking their eyes off of the river to smile and wave at you. That should make you a little bit more nervous than acknowledging you. All right? And another thing is that there are a couple 100 miles of river. So if you're running back and forth on a busy weekend, holiday weekend, in a relatively short gap, it shouldn't be any surprise to you if people start kind of giving you nasty looks.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, all of these boats pretty much look the same.
Yeah.
So, you know, the old one bad egg spoils the bunch kind of saying. Like, I've went upriver behind less than courteous boaters and had people throw rocks at me. And, of course, I'm going to stop and be like, hey, man, you know, why are you throwing rocks at me? I don't come to you, throw rocks at you while you're enjoying your weekend. What's going on here? What's the deal? Let's talk about it first. Hi, my name's Lucas.
You want to buy some property?
Yeah. In sales, man, remember? And they're like, man, you came by here a minute ago and swamped us or whatever it was. You came too close. I'm like, well, did you see me come back down and then go back up? You know, it's not a lazy river. This sucker doesn't run in a circle.
Yeah.
This is my first time coming upstream. You know, so in that moment, you know, everybody's going to kind of file in to a group. Same thing with floaters. This is a wild and scenic riverway, depending on which one you're on. It's not Six Flags.
Yeah.
It's not a lazy river. You need to be mindful. Now, it's a class 1 rapid, like the most tame of all classifications of rapids, but it's still, just because it's a national park doesn't mean it's a theme park.
Right.
So, you know, keeping an eye on your alcohol consumption.
Yeah.
You get out there in the 90-degree heat and you're pounding booze all day and you don't have to get out of the water to go potty. That's mind-blowing, isn't it? 2,000 people got in the river this weekend. Everybody was pounding beers. Not one person got out to pee. I think that's an old comedy skit. So be mindful and be courteous. You know, if you got a group of people and you got a couple 100 feet of river, like, you don't have to float 20 feet apart the width of the river. And if you do, you have to be a little bit understanding if, you know, somebody's got to go close to somebody else when they're passing. Might not necessarily be a boater. Might be another floater. The other thing, if you're floating, be it a tube, a raft, canoe, yes, it is a very tame river, but it's very easy to relax, lose track of where you are, and have a little accident.
Mm-hmm.
You ever flipped a canoe?
I've never flipped a canoe. I flipped a kayak.
I've sank canoes.
Have you?
To the bottom.
Yeah. I mean, it can happen pretty quick, even to a seasoned.
Yeah. Well, then people want to joke around and like flip you intentionally,
yeah.
and then you're like, everything's soaked. People get stuck. What if I were to get stuck on the seat or something? You know, pants leg, catch something. I'm trapped at the bottom of the river now.
It can happen. You know, I've been firsthand witness to and involved in roughly a dozen situations, you know, where people were probably in pretty good peril, where, you know, a boater, a floater, an innocent bystander, a good Samaritan came along and saved those people. But for every one of those, at least 4 times, I have witnessed people being saved from drowning in 3 foot of water or less.
Yep.
Just freaking out, just panicking. So, if you're not a good swimmer, we're going to wear a life jacket, right? Or have one really close by. If we have a cooler full of stuff, whatever's in your cooler, whatever you like to enjoy out on the river, food or beverage of your choice, let's make sure that that dude has a good latch on the lid in case it gets dumped over.
Yeah.
You know, the weekend after next, we've got the Current River cleanup.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Partner, Mossy Oak Properties, is going to partner with AmeriCorps. They're going to start at Watercrest Park and work their way down to Big Spring Landing. If you're listening, we hope to see you there. Got some prizes for participants. Got a really nice kayak.
Sweet.
We got good stuff.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Good stuff.
And it's going to be fun. And it's a great way to pay it back to Mother Nature. Because we love you, Mother Nature.
She's
Shout
so
out my
nice.
moms.
My favorite mother. My other mother is nature. And some t-shirts going with that.
Hey, Lucas, I want to turn it back for half a second.
Sure.
I've got a question. So you talked about, you know, kind of seasoned vets and whatnot, how every, you know, waterway's different, of course. And I know you've got countless hours of experience on current. Have you ever went to Cape Girardeau and drove, I guess, the boat through the diversion channel ever?
No, I have not.
So it is absolutely full of invasive Asian flying carp. Dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
Dangerous. So there was a few years ago, we went as part of a hunting bow fishing guide, and it was a hunting channel, TV show type thing. We went out there to film, and we go through this very small creek that came off the diversion channel. There was 2 boats, and we were in the back boat, and just they romped it. And when they did, the entire creek came alive, filled up our boat with carp, and they were hitting us. It hurts.
Oh yeah.
You know, people get knocked off, get knocked out. There's been reports of people dying from it.
Oh yeah. They can weigh 4 or 5 pounds.
Yeah. Oh,
or
they're
more.
huge.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, if you've never done that, of course, exercise precaution, but very, very entertaining.
Sad to report, there have been reports of those invasive silverhead, bighead carp making their way into some of these Ozark streams.
Really?
Yeah.
Indeed.
I was unaware.
Well, now what they don't know is come September 15th, them old hillbillies are going to be out there with those gigs. And it's on.
Yeah.
It's on. For those of you that aren't familiar with gigging, it's a very primitive style of fishing it involves non-game fish, so rough fish like sucker fish, carp, basically anything that doesn't have a season on it, like bass or catfish. And folks will go out there in the front of their boat. They'll have some kind of light. Nowadays, it's more LED. They've really made a lot of
Not
advances.
as primitive anymore.
Not as bad. Well, once upon a time, they'd light like pine knots. They get a real tight pine knot off a pine tree or sappy and have it in a basket in front of their boat. So they're like got a fire on a wooden boat hanging out over the front, and they're using that for their light and stabbing these sucker fish in the head. They've got a metal 4 or 5 prong gig. Maybe you've seen a frog gig. And this is going to be a bigger version, and usually anywhere from a 10 to 16 foot long gig pole. And I mean, it's just like the kind of says, you run through the water, you sit there and see them, and boom. Sounds easy. If you think it doesn't sound like a challenge, I challenge you to give it a shot.
Yeah.
Figure 8 pattern.
And then
very humbling.
on current, a lot of times it'll get pretty competitive.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Big competition out there for it.
But I'm here to tell you that fresh fried sucker fish on the bank of the current river under the stars, man, now that's a hillbilly story right there. And as a resident hillbilly, I approve.
I've never had suckerfish. They didn't know it was edible, honestly. But
Oh, it's phenomenal.
Everything's edible if you're brave.
That's right. And then you fry up some biscuits and get you some apple butter. No, I can say no more. Giving away too many trade secrets, too many hillbilly trade secrets. But back to floaters and boaters. I guess my goal is, I don't want to open up some kind of huge debate because there's already plenty of that going around online every day. What I don't want to see is people not being able to just have a conversation, because that's it, right? Mozark Department of Conversation. That's what we're here for.
Right.
To open it up, let's talk about it. We can find common ground. What you don't want is for this to come to a head or there to be some sort of issue that results in big brother government coming along and stepping in and regulate. Because for everything that you want, maybe laws or regulations or, clarity, there's going to be some other stuff stuck in there that you're not going to like. It's never just, oh yeah, we're taking care of you.
Yeah.
We're going to strip some more rights gradually over time. They're playing a long game. Sometimes necessary. That sounds so much better. Thank you. I don't know what you did. But people are going to have to not rely on that and understand, I as a floater, when I am floating, I put myself in that, scenario. I mean, I'm not acting like I'm the only one out there on the river. All right. I'm trying to be conscious of, not only floaters, but other boaters, people fishing. Now that's a big one. Here's a guy or a gal or whomever. They're out there on a smallmouth tournament. Man, they're just in the zone. They're not paying attention to the hundreds and hundreds of people that are floating by there. Maybe stick your paddle in the water or your hands a little bit and give them some room. You don't want to get right underneath those guys. And if they got something with some treble hooks on it, that might be pretty hard on your old tube there, Justin.
Yeah, that or your foot.
It's no fun.
It can happen.
That could even be said about boater versus boater at
Absolutely.
that point. You got fish on, get ready to rock, and then
Absolutely.
you fall off the boat because somebody comes flying by.
Absolutely.
Well, and another thing is, it's just like some people think they're a good swimmer, and they may be a good swimmer in calm water, But, you know, a lot of people don't know how to swim with a swift current.
Right.
They want to fight it so much if they're in deep water.
Oh yeah.
Nobody knows to, they fight it so much then they just tire themselves out. And then,
Hey man, at the peak of my athletic ability, I mean, I'm teaching kids to swim. I'm pretty confident in myself. You catch a cramp in your foot, you're going down, brother. I don't care who you are.
Like a banana, put you in the grave.
I mean, seriously. So be prepared. It's the Boy
Potassium.
Scout marking song. Be prepared. Another thing, real quick. If you are using an outfitter, they're going to give you a little mesh bag for your trash. Not only use it, but also be sure to close up the top of it in between stuffing trash in it. And don't be afraid to ask them for a couple of more if you don't think that you've received enough for your journey and for the amount of consumption that you plan on having that day.
yeah.
And another one, if you're on tubes, don't tie your tubes together.
It's dangerous.
That's the one that gets people into trouble more often than not. Because, now everybody's facing the same direction. We've all tied together. We're facing upstream. We're headed down this direction. Now we're in a treetop, and you've got 7 or 8 of these tubes. The river's not going to pause its flow to let you get out of the situation.
Yeah.
And it's a whole lot easier to just throw a wrap around there and just kind of set your hand on that rope, or, just reach over and hold on to somebody if you're wanting to float as a group, and you just let go. And you'll part ways, and crisis will be averted.
With just one simple
Right.
not to do.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, speaking specifically of tying floats, together, tubes together, it happened. My mother and I were floating when I was much younger. It was my first time we'd ever went, and we'd stopped to eat some sandwiches upstream a little bit. And the gentleman that owned that property there, he was sitting there just watching people, people watchers, just having a good time. And he said, "Hey, you guys are really nice. Walk out further when you go to push off." He said, "There's a tree under the water up there, and you can't see it. And people have been getting hung up on it all day." So you're like, "Thank you, sir." And we walked out. As it turns out, it wasn't far enough. Her and I are tied together. We're going straight for it. We cannot, the stream is pulling us right on top of it. She goes over the top of it, and it ends up, teeter-tottering us. I'm on one side, she's on the other. It flips her backwards, and she gets sucked under the tree. And I didn't see her for, another 20 feet until she came out from underneath the water. I thought I was an orphan.
Scary stuff, man.
Very scary. I mean, obviously freaked her out.
Yeah.
Because she's like, I gotta get to my baby. But
Right.
I didn't know where she'd went. I couldn't see any sign of her. And I was 10-year-old little Devin
Oh, man.
freaked out.
I feel like we need to animate that.
No, dramatic.
10-year-old little Devin, little adorable, little animated dude. Mama, no.
I bet you look like the kid off of Up.
Man. So, keep in mind, the intent here, the intent today is not to shame anybody or, make anybody concerned about going out and enjoying the waterways. It's just more of a kind of an FYI, opening up that dialogue a little bit and saying, there's more than you out here. And you could say this about motorcycles and automotive traffic. Hikers and bikers out on our many, many, many miles of beautiful trails throughout the Ozarks. It's just about being courteous. All right. There's more folks out here enjoying this than just you. And the number one rule is to leave it better.
Then you found it.
I love it every time. Now, rather than criticizing paddlers versus boaters, back to those old school boats. Have you ever checked out the boats that they used to use up and down the current and these waterways like back in the 50s?
Are we talking long boats?
Oh yeah.
Like long boats?
So-
Wooden ones? Or are we talking?
My favorite acquisition to date is it's not a historic, I guess, time-wise. It's a replica, 24-foot wooden John boat, and I've got a 1942 Johnson outboard that powers it. And man, you talk about turning heads, and also just a completely different vibe, when you're out there on the river.
Is that the red and white Johnson motor you have?
This one's green and white.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, I'm not a big fancy hot rod car guy. I don't have, a country club membership. But man, if it comes to cheap old John boats and canoes, I'm your guy.
Hey, I've went and picked up a canoe for you.
You looking for one?
Looking for some wooden ones, yeah.
Throw up some.
Was that when I had it on?
Almost.
Speaking of, whatever happened to that one that I went and got for you that day?
What'd you go get me? That wooden canoe?
Yeah.
It's sitting with all the other canoes. It's waiting for us to upgrade our studio so that we can have them behind us. We can look at them and talk about, man, it'd be really cool to go float that one day and never do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I have them hanging on the wall.
And you know that that kind of revolves around you, the viewer, tuning in consistently to where we can have these pretty upgrades to make it look nice for everybody.
We just want a bigger studio. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want much.
My wants are simple. I just want a little bit more room so we can have more guests. And speaking of more guests, if you got anything to add to the conversation, be sure to comment below. If you can't comment, shoot me an email, lucas@mozark.com. Speaking of today's episode being brought to you by the Mozark Companies, Mossy Oak Properties. For any of your real estate needs, you can contact Mossy Oak Properties at...
Well, I mean, you can call us at 573-712-2252, or...
You can go online at mozarkrealestate.com. Or go to our whole family's website at mozark.com and you see the whole Mozark company family website right there.
And pick up your Hacker Bros stuff for golf, riverwear, winterwear.
Newly designed
sleepwear.
website.
Hacker Brothers was nice enough to sponsor today's episode too.
What good guys over there.
And we need to do a giveaway. So how about, right in line with today's theme, let's go. We're going to give away a UV shirt because those are awesome. And
great for water.
Fabulous for floating, fishing, just being outside. Destroy the shirt at all costs. Save your skin.
Yes.
And we'll throw in a Hacker Brothers hat also.
That's a good deal.
So if you got anything to add to today's conversation, any suggestions, corrections, anything like that, be sure to give us a comment. And right in line with that, if there's anything else that you'd like to hear us discuss here on the Mozark Minute, drop us a comment or shoot me an email.
Holler.
So appreciative of everybody tuning in today. We thank you so much. We look forward to next time. Have a safe and great holiday weekend. Give me a longer cord.
Hey guys, if you liked that episode of the Mozark Minute, be sure to check back every week on Spotify, YouTube, and Facebook as we keep you up to date on what's up to date.
And every time we jump on this podcast, we're going to discuss more and more topics that not only you, the listener, wants to hear, but some, pretty interesting topics of our own. So stick around, check back in with us. Thank you so much from the Mozark Minute.
See you next time.